Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It is 6 o'clock for that clock, 2 minutes till for this clock. Explain to you, we're going for that clock. So we'll get the meeting started. First of all, I'd like to thank you for coming out, starting the new year, 2013. Hopefully it's going to be a good year for Franklin County. I'm certainly honored to start this meeting off tonight. And my first question is, can you hear me okay?
Right.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Talk a little loud. Talk a little loud. Won't make sure everybody in the group can hear. And again, I would like to tell you how honored I am to be here tonight. I'm honored to be a servant of Franklin County. And I'd like to start off by saying publicly thank you for the 3 commissioners that just went off the commission board. We certainly appreciate all of their hard, diligent work. Does any other commissioners have anything to say in the introduction fashion?
I'd like to say that I appreciate being back on the board. I work hard for Franklin County and try to make the right decision for this county to help as many people in this county as we can help. And so y'all just give us a chance to work for you, and we'll go from there.
I'd like to say the same. I'm very glad to be on this side of the board looking out. Really look forward to serving my county. I grew up here in Franklin County, and we want the best for Franklin County. We know that times are hard, and it's just like I know that everybody out there has experienced a hard last several years with our economy, and it's I'm afraid it's the tip of the iceberg, but we're going to have to make decisions that I can tell you it's just like I'd put myself, it's what I would do for myself, and it's not like I wouldn't ask anybody to do something if I wouldn't do it. But my name is David Strickland, and I represent District 2 in Livonia and Gumbel, and thank you for being here.
I'll be very brief, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I just want to echo the sentiments of my colleagues. Very thankful to see this good crowd out here tonight. We really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come be a part of your county government. I'm a firm believer that we're facing some real challenges in this year, but I'm also a firm believer that this board, with input from the citizens, can handle any challenge that comes our way. And we ask for your patience, support, and in particular, prayerful support as we go through this year.
I would like to say I'm excited about working with our new board. We've already got some plans in progress, and I think we are all looking out for the best interest of this county. And I think it's going to be a very hopeful year.
Thank you, commissioners. Let us stand for the invocation and pledge allegiance to the flag. Our kind Heavenly Father, we give you praise and honor that we're here tonight. We thank thee for this county that you've given us to enjoy and work in and play in. We ask that you will guide each one here tonight. Give us wisdom, give us knowledge, and go with us, our Father, as we work to serve you in our daily tasks. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3 is approval of the minutes. We have that in the commissioner's package where we had the regular board meeting December the 3rd, and then the planning session, which was on December 27th. Do I hear a motion that we accept those?
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
All right, let it be noted that Jeff has made the motion to accept it. David has made the second to that motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. I hear no opposed. Next item, we'll go right into the audit report. I'd like to call on Chris All right, Phil. Chris, if you'll come up, please, and give us a audit report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Board. I got John Holden with us as well today, who works to manage this audit. I appreciate you having us back, Rushing & Company back as auditors again this year. We appreciate the relationship we've had over the years. We went through many of the numbers in detail at the work session. And so we'll be very brief today and go over just a few numbers to just show where the county is financially. In the audit report, we have a clean opinion. So there is a clean opinion on the numbers reported in the financial statements. And then just to call out a few of the numbers that are in those financial statements. In 2012, we ended up with a little over $59,000 of net assets of the county. That's assets minus liabilities, and that's all funds combined. The bulk of those net assets are not liquid assets, of course. They're roads and bridges and equipment and land and buildings and those type of things. In fact, $52.6 million of that $59 million is that. If we looked at all funds combined for the year, we have a little over $1 million revenues or over our expenses for 2012, which is pretty normal to where we've been flowing in prior years. But I think we need to concentrate on the general fund and what some of those numbers look like. As we discussed in the work session, we've used some of the general fund reserves over the last few years, and I think we need to be very careful in the fiscal 2013 budget that we're operating right now, that we hold to that budget and really consider that we try not to use any of those prior reserves. If we look at where our reserves are for the general fund at the end of 2012, we had a little over $2.2 million of unassigned fund balance. So that's about a little over 2 months, actually 2.1 months of our annual expenditure budget in the general fund. So I think we need, typically in the past, we've been 3 or 4 months or a little ahead of 3 or 4 months annual budget, and so we're down to 2.1 months. The year before we were at 3.5 months where we ended. So I think it's very important that as we're putting together and especially thinking with this board and putting together the budget for next year, that we look at where our revenues are going to be compared to our expenses, and be sure that if our expenses are going to be more than our revenues, that there's not as much reserves there as there used to be to try to fall back on. So, in the general fund for the year, revenues were up $811,000. Expenditures were up about the same amount. The majority of that had to do with a grant that we received from Georgia DOT, where we had construction out at the Ty Medical Center that was financed through that grant. So the grant came in, expenditures went out on that, so that's why both your revenues and your expenses are up for the year. But over the last 2 or 3 years, outside of some abnormal grant or unusual grant that's not a reoccurring, that our other revenue sources have continued to decline with property tax values. Property taxes have been down. Our fines and forfeitures were down last year, $188,000. So as like it was mentioned earlier, times are tough. And we're seeing this with all our governmental clients. So I would just say, pay close attention to the budget, try to stay in that budget, and continue to watch where our reserves are, our fund balance are going forward. Water and sewer fund, the operating revenue in there was up $38,000 for the year, but our expenses were up in there also. Our expenses were up due to purchased water increase, and also increase in materials for what we would do as small projects that wouldn't not capitalized. The net assets are in that fund are in good shape right now, but, continue to remember that we have to subsidize that fund by transfers out of the general fund. We've got the water and sewer fund that we subsidize with the general fund budget. We've got the E911 fund that we subsidize with the general fund budget. So we've got to keep those other funds in mind too as we're putting together that general fund budget, which is the main operating budget of the county. And answer any questions you might have.
Chris, one question I have real quick.
Yes.
Y'all did an excellent job in providing us detailed information regarding, the status of our audit. But I was looking on sheet 54, annual pension cost and net pension obligation. You have a rate of return on investment of present and future assets compounded annually. Y'all are looking at 7.75%. Where did you obtain that number? Because from what I have seen, it has been significantly lower, and I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm. And that's not a rate that we calculate. That's a rate that comes from the pension plan actuarial report. And so I agree with you. That is not the rate of return that's being experienced right now by hardly anyone. If you could get that, I think everybody would rush to that. But that is the rate of return that they feel like will be earned over a long period of time. So, it used to be when if you ever sat down with a financial planner or tried to plan out, what kind of rate of return can I expect? The common used to be 7–8%. So that's not where it is now, but it certainly has been higher than that in the past. It's just not where it is right now. So that's the rate of return they're using to project out long-term on future benefits that will be paid maybe 10 or 20 years from now.
Thank you for that clarification.
Good idea and everything, but that's not actually what would have to be paid, correctly? We only pay what is actually in earnings, correct? Because the last 12 years has been a decade plus 2 of recovery in negative.
Right, and that rate of return, what we're saying here is that rate of return is not the rate of return that the county's necessarily paying out. These right here are their or what they're using in their estimate. In other words, when they're factoring in what is going to be paid out and how much money the county has to put in on an annual basis to fund future retirees and our current retirees, these on this page 54, those are what they're using in their estimates as factors to make that calculation. It's not necessarily we're going to pay out 7.75%. They're using 7.75% as what they feel like the investments will earn over a long period of time.
So all they're saying is just projected.
It's projected, all is projected. And just like the inflation factor there at 3%, that's projected, that inflation factor over a long period of time will be 3%. Could be higher right now, but over a long period of time average.
Again, thank you for that clarification.
Yes, absolutely.
Any other questions? We want to thank you for coming and presenting that to us. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having us. Good luck to the 3 new members and 2 returnees. I think it'll be a good year for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You know that the next item on the agenda here is animal shelter funding. That's been an item that we've looked at very seriously this last week. I'm going to ask Jeff to speak briefly on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be very brief, but as you're aware, due to budget constraints during this past budget cycle, we allocated $30,000 for funding of the animal shelter, knowing that potentially the actual cost of Franklin County's prorated share would be more. Our commitment was that throughout the year we would look at additional funding sources as they became available. We have since the adoption of the initial budget amended the budget twice. One time was $8,500, the other time was $5,000, bringing our total allocation now to $43,000. The total share of Franklin County's cost, as you're aware, Franklin County, Hart County, and the municipalities they are in all contribute to the animal shelter based on the amount of animals taken in from each jurisdiction. I said all that just to bring you up to speed. We have been looking at additional funding sources in order to bring the shelter up more to par and for Franklin County to fulfill its obligations both to the shelter and the other jurisdictions involved. We have had a very tough budget time, but we did get one bit of good news, most recently in the form of our insurance premium tax, which comes back to Franklin County on an annual basis. We had budgeted $650,000 for that revenue stream. Our actual collection, as received back from the state of Georgia, was $701,271, thus yielding $51,721 more than what we had budgeted as a revenue source. We have other obligations other than the animal shelter. We are also anticipating potential reduced collections due to House Bill 386, which is going to eliminate 3-cent sales taxes off certain energy producers in the county. We're also looking at a potential negative impact imposed by legislation that is changing the way that ad valorem tax is collected by the county, as well as other deficits that have been duly noted in our revenue streams. And I said that to say this. Tonight I am ready, based on the additional revenues that we have found, to make a motion that we up the animal shelter funding by $12,500, taken from the overage in the revenue collected from our insurance premium. That's still leaving us with the residual that is going to help offset the revenue streams impacted by the ad valorem taxes and change to the elimination of excise taxes that Franklin County previously received, as well as underages that have also been noted in other revenue streams. So, Mr. Chairman, at this time, I would make the motion that we amend our budget to add $12,500 to the Northeast Georgia Animal Shelter.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion. Let it be noted that Jeff made the motion that we go ahead and pass $12,500 to the animal shelter, with Clint Harper seconding that. All in favor of that, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So, my interpretation is that we would consider ourselves fully funded down the shelter from January through June the 30th. And we'll appreciate, I'll tell you how much we appreciate the personnel working with us on that issue. Next item of business is a report on the roadway system. As most of you know, we got over 400,000 miles, 400 plus miles of roads in Franklin County. About half of those are in dirt roads, gravel roads, and about half of them on paved roads. So we have talked to the manager and asked that he get with the road department and our engineer and come up with a priority list on our dirt roads, looking at the priorities of where we have unsafe conditions in our county. And also looking at our paved roads and where we can maybe extend the livelihood of our paved roads by doing some preventive maintenance. So this is basically for your information. Please pass the word on. If we have any citizen in Franklin County that knows of an unsafe road where dirt or paved, please give our manager a call or the road department a call. And then we're going to prioritize those and start trying to take care of all unsafe spots in Franklin County. Saying that, any commissioner have any additional statement to that?
Just as an additional footnote to your comments, Mr. Chairman, the citizens and I would like to make aware that we have submitted for a grant, an off-systems safety grant through the Georgia Department of Transportation that has been compiled and submitted, and we're looking to have approximately 40 roads restriped, center line and edge line if applicable, as well as upgrades to the existing signing on those roads. We're anticipating approval of that grant anytime within the next month, and look forward to being able to come in here and make that official, get that project let, and get our roads saved up in that manner.
Any other comment? Let's move to the water system. As you know, we're coming along real nicely. Thanks to the previous commissioners, we have a hub in place for our water system. We want to take a look at the concept that we have of deep wells, and we want to invite anyone that wants to try to drill a deep well and meet all the specifications. I've asked Bob White, our water superintendent, and the others involved, the engineers and so forth, that we look more in detail how we're going to take on these deep wells. And also, we would like for any members, citizens of Franklin County to let us know if you got a section that you would like water, put it in writing, the area and the number of people that would tap on to the watering system. So we want to begin now, continue what's been done, and add to it in the near future. Saying that, we are letting bids come out, I believe, January 17th, is that correct?
That's correct.
January 17th to lay some more water lines in the southern part of the county. So we'll continue with that. But if you have any questions about the water system in Franklin County, please contact us. Any other comments about that?
I've got a question. Is 320, is it finished?
Yes, that's right. That was a two-phase project. All the water line is in the ground. Now, the contractor's not been released yet. There's some grassing and erosion type work that needs to continue on, but that project is completed.
So they done checked the water then? The water's been checked?
How about the leak testing? That is
No, that has not been done. It has not been turned over to the county just yet.
So we got the 320 project that's completed, but just a little bit more work done. And I believe we're practically coming through Aiken Road with that water line.
Yeah, that's right. The county crews are working on that road, and yes, they're very close to finishing it up.
That's great. Any other comments?
Oh, when they complete that road, then our county forces will transition to Casey Road to tie in the pre-existing segments of water main there. So not only are we expanding our water system via contract, we're also doing it where beneficial with our forces.
Right. Good comment. And some of you might want to input some comments, but we're going to give you some options right at the end, plus the option anytime to give us a call and put your input into that, and then we'll go from there. Now, let's talk a little bit about the natural gas. We know there's a lot of people in our county that's pushing for natural gas, naturally because propane is so much more expensive. So what we've done, we have selected 2 members of our commissioners. That would be Jeff Jakes and Clint Harper, to meet with Royston Natural Gas Department and their leadership team to try to get the ball rolling so we can expand natural gas throughout the county. Saying that is, if it all falls in place, we have a temporary appointment scheduled for January the 18th. If all parties can meet that schedule, that's when we will start the ball rolling. Is that correct, January 18th?
It is. The time has not been set yet, but on January 18th, if our subcommittee is available, that's the day we'd like to have that meeting.
Sounds good. Following up with that is the work session. This year we're going to have a work session, and we looked at when it would be appropriate for everyone, and probably less interference with other meetings in the county, we thought about Thursdays, but that date did not work out. So we have set the last Tuesday, pass that word on, last Tuesday for work sessions at 6 o'clock, right here where we at today. And let me get you to pass the word on to the citizens of Franklin County. If you want to talk and talk extensively and in detail about a situation in our county, that would be a very appropriate place to do that. Starting off, that would be January 28th, I believe, would be the last Tuesday of this month, will be our first work session at 6 o'clock. And we hope we can get some things rolling in those work sessions so we can come back on the first Mondays and proceed. I'm corrected. January 29th is the first Tuesday, or last Tuesday of the month. So that will be our first work session. Now we're going to look at some board appointments. Now some of these have to be advertised, some of them does not. The first appointment is a appointment that's made by the commissioner. It is the Georgia Mountain Regional Commission board, and the person that we had in that position has gone off the board. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to recommend one of our commissioners to serve on that.
I recommend David Strickland.
Okay, David Strickland's name has been mentioned to serve on that board. Do I have a second to that?
I'll second.
Clint Harper seconds that motion. All in favor, let's start raising our hands. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Are you willing, David?
I'm willing.
I wasn't gonna give him a choice. He's been recommended. All right, the next is the council chief executive officer. And you know what that means. There's no picking. The chairperson is supposed to do that. So basically, thank you. The chief elected officer is the chairperson. You notice I skipped one. The Workforce Investment Board, which is also in the Georgia Mountain Regional Commission. It takes place at the same time. A lot of people has the chairperson to attend that, but I would like a recommendation for someone to be in joint committee with me on that. Do I hear a motion for someone?
I recommend David and you. So y'all could ride together.
Good, thank you. Since David is going to be for that one, and they are in concurrent with each other, we could actually save some mileage and so forth. So David Strickland is recommended to serve along with myself. Do I have a second to that?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Jeff. All in favor of that, raise your right hand. All opposed? Let it be pointed out that it's unanimous decision. Joint Development Authority is an advertised position. We have 2 individuals now that's on that, but every so often we have to advertise it, see if we have anybody new that would like to serve on that. So look for that on our website coming up for the Joint Development Authority. Franklin County Health Board, very important board. When I was superintendent of schools, it is a requirement that the superintendent work on that health board. As the chairperson, it is pointed out that the chairperson is a member of that board. So I will serve as the Franklin County Health Board representative from the commissioner. Georgia Behavioral Health Board, very important board. We want to advertise that position. If we have anybody in Franklin County that's interested in that position, please notify our manager so we can get your name down and consider you for that position. Next on the list is the Tax Assessor Board. I'd like to read you a resolution on the Tax Assessor Board. A resolution by the Franklin County Board of Commissioners to decrease the number of members of the Franklin County Board of Tax Assessors by a format from 5 members to 3 members, providing for staggering terms of office for the remaining members, and establishing a term of office for all newly appointed and reappointed members. That is the resolution that I am proposing. I make a motion that we reduce it down to 3. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Let it be known that Jeff Yates seconds that motion. Any discussion? If you're ready to vote, all in favor of that, please raise your right hand. All opposed, the same sign. Let it be noted, 5-0 vote. The tax commissioner has to have a resolution from the commissioners from their approval to accept checks. I have that before me from Mr. Martin here, and it states that we, Board of Commissioners of Franklin County, do hereby authorize our tax commissioner, Bobby Martin, to accept checks for all taxes, fees, and license due to their respective offices. Do I have a motion that we approve that?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. Mr. Harper makes the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
David Strickland seconds that motion. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? 5-0 vote. Mr. Martin, looks like you can still accept checks. Staff appointments. We have a very efficient clerk, but it's official that the first meeting in January that we always reelect, reappoint, or what you want to call it, the county clerk. Do I have a motion from anybody for our county clerk?
Mr. Chairman, I will enthusiastically make that motion to reappoint Laverne Gilly as our county clerk.
All right, we have a motion from Jeff Jakes. Do I have a second?
I second.
Robert Franklin seconds that. Any discussion? Laverne? All raise your hand if you favor that. You see, you're 100% our clerk. We appreciate what you do.
Sure do.
It's the same procedure with our attorney each year in January, and due to the situation and effectiveness that our attorney is doing, we see that we have our attorney sitting over here. Do I have a motion that we continue using our attorney at this time?
Mr. Chair, I'll gladly make that motion that we reappoint our attorney with the same contract or the same conditions as last year. He certainly he's becoming a part of Franklin County. He's saved us a lot of money in the probate office. He has bailed us out on a lot of different issues, and he does a lot without charging. That general people don't know what he does, but I'm certainly glad to have him as our county attorney.
I will second that, Mr. Chairman.
All right, let it be noted that Glenn Harper has made that motion, second by Jeff Jakes. Any discussion?
May I ask his name?
Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed? Okay. Open records custodian. Many times open records is requested, and we have to have specifically by law a open records custodian. someone that we can basically tell the citizens who they need to go and request the open record request. So the resolution that we have on the open records resolution of Franklin County Board of Commissioners for the purpose of naming an open record officer and alternate open record officer and for other purposes. Do I have a motion who we recommend?
Make a motion that we recommend Vernon Hill.
Laverne's been recommended. Do I have a second?
Second.
Robert Franklin seconds that. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of that, raise your right hand. All right, all opposed, same sign. I believe it's a 5-0 vote to pass that on to our clerk.
Mr. Chairman, in addition, the resolution provides for the appointment of an alternate. That's
Right. That's coming up. Thank you. So we got to have an alternate to that personnel. So we'll take care of that business now. We ask for an alternate. Do we have a motion who would be a good one? Let me ask Mr. Marsh, would you have a good backup?
Well, I think this resolution actually names the county manager, and I'd be more than willing to do that service. I think it makes sense since we're so close together in office space, so one person's not there, the other can take care of it.
I think that makes sense. All right, so Billy Marsh is our backup person. Do I have a motion that we accept Billy for that position?
I make that.
David Strickland motion, second.
I'll second that.
Lynn Harper seconds that. All in favor of that? 5-0. So our manager will be the backup person for the open records. We have a district attorney funding request on our list. As you know, our new DA enthusiastically wants to relieve our court documents and reduce it and get rid of some things that's happened in the past and move along. He has made a funding request for a top flight assistant DA out of Augusta, Georgia, but he needed a supplement from the counties that he has served, which is a small amount. From Franklin County, it is less than $2,000 supplement. For the last half of the fiscal year, it would be less than $1,000 for us to chip in to get that top flight assistant DA. Do I have a motion that we accept that funding request from DA Mr. White?
I'll make a motion that we accept it.
David Strickland makes the motion. Do we have a second?
I will second to get us to the point of discussion, because I would like clarification from our county attorney
Good.
before we move forward.
Good deal. All right, we have a motion by David Strickland, second from Jeff Jakes. Now let's have the discussion. Jeff?
The question I have, this being a quasi-state employee working in that position, I would ask council, this is one of the, actually, the only time that I have ever seen a request come in for a county supplement for a position of that nature. Is that in order from a legal standpoint?
I think we do have, if I'm not mistaken, I think we do supplement I think there was a secretary position, some sort of clerical position in the district attorney's office.
That's a fully funded position.
Right.
From the jurisdictions.
Yeah, the only other scenario that I think is comparable is our public defender contribution each year. But of course, that's pursuant to an intergovernmental agreement among the counties who are providing that supplement. It would be nice to have the rights and obligations of all the parties spelled out as far as, you know, for instance, I mean, if we agree to make this a part of our budget for next year, but one of the other 5 counties in the circuit does not, what happens to that position? That has not been spelled out to my knowledge in any sort of agreement.
That's one of the issues I have, and then if we do allocate the additional funding, what do we get in return as a direct and tangible yield? That's my questions to my colleagues.
I've got the same.
That's a good question. So I hear some concerns and so forth. Do I have a motion that we table that until we can look into it?
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Jeff Jakes makes a motion that we table that until we look further into it. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
David seconds that. All in favor of that, please raise your right hand. 5-0. So we will look further into that issue. Health Insurance Committee. This is a committee, again, that we are looking into the employees' health insurance for the county. I'm going to ask Jeff Jakes if he'll speak a little bit further on that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a follow-up to our lengthy conversation that we had during our work session regarding health insurance. As everybody is aware, whether you're in the governmental sector or private sector, there have been major rate increases across the board with your health insurance. There have also been decreases in coverage. Much is the same that's been experienced in Franklin County. We cannot continue to absorb the double-digit rate increases that we have had year after year. But we fully realize that our health insurance is a cornerstone for our employee compensation package. So what I'm asking is that this board appoint a subcommittee to start looking at our options that would become effective July 1st, because we're currently locked in to our plan until June 30th. I have asked Commissioner Strickland, who has graciously again volunteered to chair this subcommittee. I don't think we've ever had anybody with this county that has the knowledge and experience that Commissioner Strickland has with this. As part of the task force, we have asked that he utilize either persons from this board, other county employees, constitutional officers. We want a significant amount of involvement, but we'll task the subcommittee with looking at viable options that are going to help mitigate the cost and get the curve back in the right direction from the double-digit health increase fees that we've had, plus increase the benefits at a minimum, make sure that the benefits for our employees do not decrease on an annualized basis. Also, there's other aspects with the implementation of the disaster known as Obamacare. There are going to be aspects of which our county is going to be impacted. And so what we have charged the subcommittee with is looking at all viable options, whether it's being self-insured, whether it's looking at pooling our employees with other cities and counties. Any option, we've got to think out of the box in order to provide a good quality health insurance for our employees and decrease the significant increases in annualized rates. So we will look at viable options for insurance for our employees. We'll look at ways to reduce costs and have the subcommittee assess the impact that is going to be imposed by federal regulations, notify the board, and then we can make an informed decision moving forward. So if it's in order at this time, I would make a motion that this board create a subcommittee with David Strickland as chair, and that he report back to us as he deems appropriate.
All right, so I have a motion that David Strickland be a subcommittee for the commissioner, and actually that means that he's going to get with some of the constitutional officers in the county and other personnel that would be a benefit to be on that committee and report back to the commissioners. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
All right, We have a second from Glenn Harper. All in favor, please raise your right hand.
Thank you, David. Thank you for volunteering for that critical subcommittee.
Well, that's a big cost within any business, is health coverage.
Now, the next thing on our agenda is the monthly financial report. We have been looking at ways that we can keep the public more informed about our financial situation. I personally think this, what we're about to do and been doing, is somewhat beneficial, but I feel like we can actually do better. So we want to give you a financial report like we've been giving, and you think in terms of how you can give us feedback on making this better, so all the citizens that would like to know the financial condition of our county, ways that we can do that for the citizens. So we'll call on our manager.
Yes, sir, that's great. We obviously want the citizens to have the best information they can. This information, you'll find it on our website. I'll have it up on the screen here. This is the financial report for the period ending November 30th, 2012. And as you can see, 41.67%, or almost 42% of the fiscal year had passed at that point. Looking at next, our outstanding debt. The debt did decrease a little bit, about $2,000 since last month. We have, as you can see, we have some payments that are annual, some payments that are quarterly, and some payments that are monthly. And we made a monthly payment, so that reduced our overall debt by $2,000. As you can see that currently, our current debt is at $5.2 million. The next item concerns commission, travel, and training. This report has not changed since last month, so no expenses have been made. Only 1% of the travel budget and only 62% of the training budget had been spent. So no changes since last month. And it was my understanding that we were going to do this particular report through the end of the calendar year. We can continue it on if you want, but that was what I thought initially was set up, that this report would go away eventually, but it didn't have to. The next item will start over up here. Looking at our cash balance. Cash in the general fund increased considerably due to the tax collections and stands at $5.1 million. Cash in the other funds, E911, water and solid waste, they also increased slightly, and that gave us a total cash of more than $7.1 billion. Now moving on, looking at the different funds, the general fund revenues are up. Again, that's due largely in part because of the property tax collections, and stands at 60%. And remember, we're at 42% of the fiscal year. 60% collections. And scrolling down through the expenses in the general fund. Expenses are slightly high at 47%, but about where we would expect them to be at this point in the fiscal year. So I'm not overly concerned about that being up a few points. Moving on down to the E911 fund. Looking at this number here, the charges are at 38%, so they are lagging a little bit. That'd be something to keep an eye on as the year goes on, but our expenses are in good shape at 43%. Looking at the water fund, you can see that both water revenues and water expenses are right on target at 42%. Solid waste fund, looking at the user fee number here, user fees are well under budget at 30%, but again, I'm not overly concerned by that number because we stockpile recycled materials and sell them when we get a stockpile of that, and so we have not done that lately. So that revenue will be coming in, so I expect that number to increase. But at the same token, expenses are also down, so I think we're doing a good job of keeping our expenses down while the revenues are down as well. And then finally, looking at a summary of all the funds, you will see that that our revenues are at 56%, our expenditures are at 46%, and that gives us a net positive income of $1.3 million for the year at this point. Be glad to try to answer any questions that you might have. Otherwise, that concludes the financial report.
Do we have any questions from the commission? I hear none, so we'll move along to the next item, and we'll call on Mr. Marsh again to tell us a little bit about the request from Livonia.
Yes, sir. As required by state law, the city of Livonia is notifying us of a parcel of property they intend to annex into the city limits. The lot in question is on Gerard Road near Pleasant Hill Road. The county's role in an annexation is to determine if the proposed Livonia zoning district is in conflict with the county's current zoning district. Livonia plans to annex the property as local business district. The county currently has the property zoned as commercial general. They are similar zoning classifications, so I don't see any conflict between the two, and would recommend y'all's consideration for approval.
Okay, on Mr. Marsh's recommendation, do I have a motion that we accept Livonia's request?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Clint Harper makes that motion. Do I have a second? David Strickland makes the second to that. All in favor of that, please raise your right hand. Let it be noted that 5-0 vote on that. If you notify Livonia, we took care of that.
Yes, sir.
The next item is the courthouse. If you watched and looked at the courthouse recently, you can see that it's in bad need of painting. So I'll let Mr. Marsh report a little more detail about the project.
Yes, sir. Well, we did put together a set of plans and specs for bidding. We received 2 bids. I've got them up on the wall there. You can see Better Home Bureau, $44,786. David's Painting of Cannon, Georgia, $42,500. So the local painter was the low bid, David's Painting. We do have SPLOST funds available to cover the cost of this project. And just very briefly, there is quite a bit of prep work that needs to be done on that building, scraping and so forth, and cleaning. Then the surface will receive a 1 coat of primer and 2 coats of paint. So we would recommend that you award the job to David's Painting in the amount of $42,500.
On the recommendation of our manager, do I have a motion that we accept that bid, David's Painting, to take care of that situation at the courthouse?
I make a motion that we accept that bid.
David Strickland makes the motion. Do I have a second?
Based on review of the bids and recommendation of staff, I will second.
Thank you, Mr. Jerry. Any discussion?
What is the warranty that will come with this particular project, Billy?
Well, as far as the contractor's work, it's 1 year.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Let it be noted that 5-0 vote. Then we'll move right along to our proposal to build a new EMS Station 2 construction bid. Mr. Marsh, give us a report.
Yes, sir. This is a project that has been in the works for quite a while. I have provided the commission with the bids received for the construction of a new EMS station in Livonia on Gerard Road. Again, I've got the bids up there. We had a lot of interest in this project. The low bid is from IBC Construction, and they're out of Livonia. We again have SPLOST funds available to cover the cost, and that low bid was $214,000. And as a reminder, the Industrial Building Authority has already approved the donation of 3/4 of an acre of land to the county for this project, so we won't have to buy any land for it. With that, we make a recommendation that we consider the IBC construction for this project.
I have a recommendation from our manager that we accept this bid from IBC Construction. Do I have a motion we accept?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we accept the low bid and the recommendation of staff.
A second.
All right, the motion was made by Mr. Jake and seconded by David Scrifford. Any discussion?
Billy, just for the purpose of clarification, there are several contractors that are listed that do not show a bid.
Yes.
Could you basically explain the reason that there is no bid?
Yeah, we, to get a set of plans, because there's a lot of work in putting the plans and documents together, they pay a fee, $50 fee. All those people up there that you see pay the fee to get a set of plans. Now, not all of them bid. We heard back from at least one of them that, hey, this is not my kind of work, I'm not gonna bid on it. And some of them may be folks that got plans because they're going to do subcontract work for a contractor, that sort of thing. But they got plans, but they didn't all bid.
Okay, thank you for clarification.
Thank you for that comment. Now we move into public comments. We better vote here.
Yes, sir.
I tell you what, it's good that we got a good, strong commissioner here. Do I, please, raise your hand if you're in favor of this. Let it be known, 5-0. So I made a mistake, first mistake for this year. And there'll be a lot more.
You were just trying to get to the public.
I was trying to get to the public. I'm anxious for your comments, but let me encourage you. Now, don't only make comments tonight. We hope to have our cell phone numbers out to all of you. We want everything out on the table where everybody can see what's going on and what's happening in the future of Franklin County for our grandchildren's sake. So, not only do we want your comments tonight, but we want your comments constantly. Do we have any comments from the group tonight? I recognize this lady.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Nancy Chadwick, and I want to thank all of you for all that you do for us. I brought this subject up, and it may be more appropriate at the work session meeting, and I want to thank you, and thank you, Jeff, especially for finding the funds for the animal shelter. I feel very passionate about animals. But one concern I have is there's no real leash laws or ordinances in terms of animal control. I live in Brittany Harbor West, and I can't safely walk on public roads without the fear of little dogs chasing me, and never mind the big pit bulls. So I have great concern. We have children in our neighborhood, and is that going to be on the agenda, or would it be more appropriate for me to bring that up at the work session?
The work session is the type, place, and the time that we would encourage you to come, and that's January 29th.
I will. Okay.
Call Mr. Morris and get on the agenda for January 29th, and we will discuss the lease law. In the meantime, I'm sure as we discuss it, we'll be getting feedback from the positive people, the ones that would like the lease law and the ones that would not, and that's what we need. I appreciate that comment.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Ma'am?
Yes, I was just wondering, so I can kind of figure this out. Do you not take any questions or comments from the public until this section? Or, because I had a question about the water thing, and she had a question about the lawyer, and it was just kind of blowed over and ignored, so.
Right.
When do we ask questions?
That's a real good point. And we're in the process, formally, I don't know of any commissioner board across the state that interjects comments as they're conducting business. What we'd like to have that input is before, at the work session, or comments at the end, but preferably before we vote on something. That's your question. It could get to be very lengthy and drawn out, but let me leave it with this. We're looking at all options, what direction to go, so all the people would feel good about what takes place.
Okay, well then I'll continue on. My question about the water thing was, are you implying that you want people to consider drilling deep wells to hook into the county?
No, I'm not implying that. I'm just making that known. If someone would like to go that route, they need to contact Bob White, our water superintendent, Mr. Marsh, and get information. In the meantime, they're going to be putting together more concrete plans, how we're going to carry that out.
Okay, and her question was, who's the lawyer? What's
Mr. Lloyd?
his name? Y'all never did introduce and say his name or anything.
Okay, so that's a good question. And I'm sure he's got many more cards if we have anyone else that would like a card from our attorney. Any other comment? Yes, sir.
Well, so what Nancy was saying earlier about the leash law. We talked about this back in November, we talked about it last month in December. Here we are, the third month talking about it. I've been doing some digging around about these leash laws, and I'm finding out that there used to be in Franklin County a position in the county that is the county marshal. And the county marshal had authority to impound somebody's dog that was found on another person's property. That animal was taken to the county shelter, and the person that owned that dog had to pay a fine to get their dog out. Now I understand that the county marshal has no more authority for, I think they refer to it as arrest powers.
He doesn't have arrest powers to pick up a dog.
Excuse me?
He doesn't have to have arrest powers for that. If the board appoints him as a animal control officer, he doesn't have arrest powers to tow a gun. I took that from him.
Okay, well, that's the point I'm trying to make, is if that was taken away from somebody that was doing it, that wasn't charging the county.
Right.
I think we need to look at that option of going back to giving that man the power to do that.
Right.
Instead of, I mean, just rough numbers, I think if you have to hire a deputy, get a vehicle to take that position, you're talking at least, and benefits, you're talking at least $60,000 a year to the county.
Right.
Okay, if you get somebody that's in a county marshal position that was doing that in the past, I don't understand why that person can't go back to doing that and start charging these people to let their dogs run around the county and upset Nancy while she's walking, upset me while I'm hunting, and upset probably half the other community when they're out just trying to do their normal business. I counted today on my ride to and from work, 6 dogs just running up and down the highway. The lady in front of me slammed on brakes because he ran across the road. How many accidents does that cause?
Yes.
So, I understand what you're saying about having another meeting to discuss things like that, but honestly, my time, you know, is just like everybody else's time. I rushed off to work, haven't even been home yet, and I'm at the county meeting tonight. I can't do that all the time just to make sure we bring up the same thing over and over, but let's face it, this is 2013. We've got to put a stop to these people that just let their dogs run wild.
Thank you very much for those comments.
Mr. Chair, you may want to explain, if somebody wants to bring something up, the public comment is just that, public comment. If you would like to bring up an issue to this board, they must get on the agenda prior to the meeting.
Yeah. Thanks for the comment, and I'm sure we'll see you at the planning session on January 29th. Any other comments?
Yeah.
I have a couple of things. One, you voted on some very important things obligating us for a year without any input from us, and that I am concerned about. I can talk to you in private if you want me to, what I'm talking about. The other thing, I'd like to ask a question, and this is my ignorance, but I'd like to know from the animal shelter, the one that we're supporting is what? There's a Hart County, there is a Livonia one. Now, when we vote to use county money, where does it go?
Okay, that's a good question. If we can answer that simply, we have a joint animal shelter between Hart and Franklin, located in Livonia.
Well, the reason I'm bringing it up, we live in the county. And when we call the Livonia shelter, they tell us they cannot come out of the city of Livonia to pick up any animals. Now, if our tax dollars from the county is supporting that shelter, why shouldn't we have some priority and not just the city of Livonia? And this is going on, it's been going on for years, and it's still going on.
I appreciate that comment, and I think I can help you with that questions that you might have there if you'll see me after the meeting.
That,
Do we
and
have?
I'll talk to you later about the other thing. And by the way, I cannot hear your voices, so you want to feedback. Only
You
one
still-
I can
you
hear
feel-
is Jeff. He's got a booming voice anyway.
Okay, we tried to correct that, I am so sorry. We have a gentleman over here that we need to recognize, all right?
Yes, the last meeting I was here, I was brought up about my taxes that the state required to Mr. Elrod back there to put before the commissioners a vote on it. I never have heard anything from it or anything. I understand that Mr. Elrod didn't pursue the request for the commissioners to check in it and vote on it.
All right, I appreciate that comment. If you'll see me, I can tell you how to correct that situation. I appreciate that comment. Any other comment? Yes, ma'am.
Then Helen Cook, and, how do you get on the agenda prior to the meeting?
Ma'am,
How do you get on the agenda prior to the meeting?
call the office and talk to Miss Laverne.
I prefer you send me something in writing at
So
least
right to the county
5
clerk?
days before the agenda's set.
Okay, 5 days. prior.
That's correct. Put it in writing and turn it in to the county clerk. Now, let me emphasize again, to get real detailed feedback and steady on the item, work sessions is a proper place to do that.
Okay, may I ask one more question about the 12,500 allotted to the animal shelter? What will that funds be used for?
We have a couple of experts to ask what that 12,500 is going to be, because we have a board member of the animal shelter and also the director of that back here. Anybody care to comment on what we use that 12,500 for?
I'm Pam Stone, I'm the board of directors. The money will go into our budget for operating expenses.
Can you speak louder?
The 2 counties and the 6 cities that all contribute towards the operational cost of the shelter, those funds are used just for that, to operate the shelter. It's not used for anything other than daily operations. It's not used for spay neuter, it's not used for capital improvements, it's not used for anything like that. It's just the daily operations of the shelter so that the services can be provided.
Is that to include payroll?
Well, that's part of the operation, yes. And our staff is not highly paid. I wish we could pay them more. And then, I know I'm getting a little bit off the subject here, but someone had asked about picking up animals. We are not chartered to go out and pick up animals. We don't have the authority to go pick up animals, even in the city. It's not just the county, it's anywhere. Sometimes Jerry, as a director, will voluntarily go with Stevie Thomas or someone that needs help with animals, but we do not go do animal control. We're strictly a drop-off facility. The reason the cities get animals picked up is because they have animal control officers that are paid by the city to do that. And neither county, Hart or Franklin at this point, has an animal control officer. So that's why you're not getting picked up animals in the county. It's nothing to do with services that aren't being provided, or paid for and not provided.
Is it possible for the public to have access to a budget for the animal shelter?
It is. We send quarterly and then annually a budget, operational costs and budget to all of our jurisdictions. It's a public document. You can get it from us, or you can get it from any of the counties or cities.
Okay.
It should be in their files.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Stone, we appreciate those comments. Anyone else have a comment? Okay.
There's a couple of people got up and spoke tonight, and I don't know their names, so if you would now ask them to give their names.
Very good. Thank you very much.
So,
That's very important, so anytime you address the commission, you will give names. That is excellent suggestion. Any other comments before we adjourn? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Irene Franklin. It's kind of easy to remember here in this county. But I live over on Catherine Lane. It's right off of Cedar Ridge. our road is deplorable. We got holes in it, if you hear it, some of us is dead. That's where we're at, is in that hole, we can't get out.
Thank you. That's why we brought up the
Well, we
road,
won't
the safety.
We're going to be back about this, because last year I lost my husband. And through all of that, that road was so bad, and I've been sick and everything. And we got to have something done about that road.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that comment, and please put that in writing and make sure our manager gets a copy of that.
We will.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Jeanette Smith, and I was wondering, last year, late last year before the change took over, there was a discussion about inmates helping on the roads in some level, I don't remember, and it might have been trustee, and I was wondering if that went any further, if you five have discussed it, or could you discuss it at a later?
That's a good comment, and that's certainly in our thoughts, is looking at all avenues of how we can gain additional assistance to get things done in our county. Any other? I hear none. We stand adjourned.
Remember how you